Hello book lovers, welcome to Uncommon Reader. My name is Daniela. Thank you for joining me today, whether you are a new subscriber or a returning one. I really appreciate you stopping by. And I'm here today with a tag. This video is not going to be published on a Tuesday, which is usually the day dedicated to tags, but since I think this tag is quite time sensitive, I want to give the opportunity to the people that I will tag to make the video in time before the end of November. The tag is called Nonfiction November Book Tag, and I've seen this video on Marilyn Maya Mendoza's channel. And this tag was originally created by Julie of Bookish Travels. The minute I saw this tag on Marilyn's channel, I immediately felt like, oh gosh, I have to do this, because in the last year or two, there were some nonfiction books that really stood out for me. So I really wanted to participate to this tag, which I think it's usually, you know, tags are a very fun and playful, but I love tags that are quite relevant and that make you reflect and think. So let's start. The first prompt is, what motivated you to pick up your first nonfiction book, and can you remember it? Okay, I couldn't really remember the very first one, but my memory was able to go back to 2001 when Oriana Fallaci published The Rage and the Pride. So this author, Oriana Fallaci, I have already mentioned in a previous book tag, created, by the way, by Marilyn Maya Mendoza herself, The Phenomenal Woman. Oriana Fallaci is an Italian writer, journalist. She has been a war correspondent and has been living in USA for a couple of decades, and was in New York on September 11, 2001 in her Manhattan apartment. And after those terrible attacks, she wrote this book. So this book broke 10 years of silence from this amazing woman, but this book created a lot of controversy because she was really going after the Islamic terrorism, declaring, in her opinion, that there is an incompatibility between the Islamic world and the Western world, the global reality of the jihad and the lack of response, the lenience of the West. And this book was really one-sided, very biased to Western culture. So it really created a lot of tension in Europe as well, because, you know, borders are open and we are welcoming people, and she was totally against it. And Oriana Fallaci is not new to the Islamic world, because as a war correspondent, she also interviewed heads of states such as Arafat and the Ayatollah Khomeini, and there was a huge controversy as well when she was about to meet Khomeini, because she was refusing to wear the veil. So I don't remember how it ended, but I guess that she had to sort of cover her head a little bit. But there is actually a book, if you want to check out her interviews of Henry Kissinger, Golda Meir, and also Indira Gandhi, and of course Arafat and Khomeini. It's called Interview with History. Moving on to the second question, how do you choose your next nonfiction read? So usually it's something related to topics that I am particularly curious to learn more about it. I also tend to scroll on my library's online system and to see what's new, and that there's something intriguing to me, I will place on hold and look out for that book. Third question, do you take notes or annotate your nonfiction books? I do if they're mine, I'm not buying that many nonfiction books. I tend to rent them at the library, so I cannot, write on them. I may take notes on a notepad or add a post-it or two. So when I have to prepare a video for the channel, I have them all set up and sort of have sort of a storyline and explain what the book is about. That's how I did it in the past. Fourth question: have you read a nonfiction book that has challenged your beliefs and assumptions? Oh, yes. And that's why I think nonfictions are there for, because that makes you think. And this is the beauty of literature, that it gives you so many different perspectives, right? There are two books that I wanted to mention today, but unfortunately they have not been translated in English. But I feel, since they have been quite important for me this year, that I wanted to mention them. The first book I want to mention is Addio Kabul, Goodbye Kabul, and it's a very eye-opening conversation between an Italian journalist, Domenico Quirico, and an Afghani writer, Farhad Bhutani. He was the son of a general, Afghani general, that fought the Soviet Union from the invasion of Afghanistan. But Farhad moved to Italy to study when he was young, and he decided to stay in Italy. So he still has a lot of knowledge of what's going on in Afghanistan and also the mentality of the people there. And I found that the conversation between them made me understand better why it's so complicated, integration of migrants in a foreign country. And in a way also quite sad, because I can see that the differences are so complicated, and if there's not a part of us Europeans to open up and being a little more inclusive in our daily life, I can see how someone that comes here in Europe, they tend to stay among themselves, and there is not much interaction and mingling, although there are some exceptions, and Bhutani is one of them, because he feels very welcome in Italy. So I think there has to be 50% of will and motivation to have an encounter of cultures, which I think it's so enriching. So it was quite sad at times to face certain facts that Bhutani was sharing with Quirico. The other book is The Rebels That Are Changing the World, and there are beautiful portraits written by Rula Gebreal, and she's a Palestinian writer and journalist, and she is an expert in the foreign affairs related to Arab and Israeli conflict. But in this book, she interviewed women from all sorts of cultures, and these women are facing and sometimes even risking their lives in order to fight for what they believe in, and it was very inspiring. Question number 5. How do you feel about the intersection of storytelling and factual content in nonfiction? I welcome it. It doesn't mean you have to invent things, but you have to maybe engage the reader and bring interesting facts and data, but at the same time not in a school book type of way, because those facts will be forgotten. One example, I'm sitting here by my Middle Eastern section of books, was the recent Read Dangerously that I've dedicated a whole video. And in this important essay where Azar Nafisi speaks about how literature can really make you think, and it's the power of thought and imagination. and of course diving into totalitarian regimes and all the restrictions and the banned books. So it's a so intense book. She has divided the chapters as letters to her late dad. And so the book, it's not only about facts and her interpretations or certain important books, but also sharing some memories of how her father was so important to her love for literature and how it impacted her life. So reading this book was very educational, but at the same time, it has a very fluent narrative that I guess makes you keep in mind more everything you read because you connected with the emotional aspect of the narrative itself. Moving on, sixth question. Is there a topic you wish authors would explore? I certainly have one, which is environmental issues and how big corporations are linked to those. I think it's a topic still off limits, money rules, and I'm afraid that it's going to be a while before people can dive into the link between environmental issues and these big money makers, especially in the next few years. No chance. There's nothing to laugh about, but anyway, let's move on to the seventh question. Do you incorporate insights from nonfiction into your daily life? I didn't understand the question, but I think I got it now. So at least my interpretation is that I am boycotting some big corporation. The big A, I never liked the company because I've heard many stories of exploiting workers. And after I read Nomadland, I encourage you to read this book. I decided to boycott the big A. And Nomadland, by the way, it's nothing like the movie. So I was so mad when I saw the movie because I didn't find the same content. It doesn't end the same way of the book. And I feel the book was such an amazing testimony of a certain part of how America lives, the van dwellers, and the writer herself, I forget her name, but I will put the book cover here on the screen. She experienced living as a van dweller as well to really feel certain aspect, to live a certain aspect of the van dwellers. And it was very illuminating for me, this book. It also pushed me to take a stand in certain ways I buy. I tend not to purchase online. I rather support local shops, local artisans. This is also related to fashion, for example. The fast fashion is a huge problem as well. And so there are little ways that I try to support a micro world that surrounds me and try to stay away from the big corporations. So I think that certain books I read made me open my mind to certain realities that we take for granted, but there are very few people getting rich from these places where, everything is accessible. So there is one more question to go. Choose just one book from your nonfiction collection to highlight. And I'm back. I'm back to Emmanuel Carrère, and which you probably have heard of if you have been following this channel for a while. He's one of my favorite contemporary authors, and I have quite a collection of his books, but this book, V13, was the first one I read from him, and it's a nonfiction, but I was totally taken by his writing, and his composed chronicle of the trials of the terrorists attack that took place in Paris. I believe it was 2015 in November, so it was already 9 years ago. Finally, this book is available in English. I was speaking about it maybe months ago, and I was in California last July looking for this book to give to my boyfriend, and they still didn't have it. But I believe now it is available. And this is the chronicle of those days, and Carrère really narrates them with such sensibility. His reportage covers really the facts 360 degrees, not only the facts, the terrorists, the reasons behind the attacks, of course, trying to get into their heads, and a thorough portrait of each of them, also the side of the victims, the families of the victims, and even an analysis of the legal system in France. So there are so many interesting facts and details, and of course also the emotions and the descriptions of certain scenes are very tough, but I believe it's quite an homage to the people we lost during those attacks, and very sensibly written. I really love this book. It was my favorite book of all my reads in 2023. So there you have it. And this concludes our video today. I thank you so much. I hope you're still here watching, and I encourage you to leave me a comment, a like, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'll see you soon here on Uncommon Reader. Thanks for watching, and see you soon. Happy reading. Ciao.